Welcome to the Level Up Podcast, presented by The Ultimate Gamer, a show that features conversations with trailblazers, thought leaders, risk takers, decision makers, celebrities, athletes, and investors who are defining the gaming and esports space. On Level Up, we take a journey into this dynamic industry and start to decode and reveal who and what's making news. It's about connecting, and it's about sharing the stories and vision of the people who make gaming and esports a global phenomenon. And now, please welcome your host, student of the game, and connector to the esports community, Tommy Knapp.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tommy Knapp, and this is an all-new episode of the Level Up Podcast presented by The Ultimate Gamer. On today's show, I have a conversation with Allan Phang, Regional Head of Marketing and PR at EVOS Esports, the leading esports organization in Southeast Asia. His mission at EVOS is to accelerate the awareness of esports to the masses via media and education. In addition, he assists CMOs and brands on esports and contributes thought leadership pieces to help EVOS Esports turn dreams into reality and inspire the next generation. From more than 10,000 miles away and with a 12-hour time difference, Allan was very generous with his time, joining me at 2 a.m. from the city of Kuala Lumpur. He discussed his role as the head of esports at AirAsia, where he defined the culture and led the company's strategic initiatives, when almost nobody at the company had even heard of esports or Twitch. We discussed the differences in marketing efforts for EVOS from country to country, his view of esports potentially entering the Olympics is a very interesting viewpoint, and how 5G might again change the world. He has traveled the world to talk esports, even TEDx. France, China, Thailand, Indonesia, Australia, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, South Korea, Abu Dhabi, and on our call from Malaysia to South Florida, please welcome Allan Phang.
So you and I think we first met where? Esports Bar Miami?
I think so, yeah, should be.
Yeah.
I went there twice in a row.
And so when you went to Esports Bar Miami, I just want to ask you, one of the things, you travel a ton. And if you go, yeah, right? Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if it's just because of the region of the world you're in, but when I go to like just your LinkedIn page, man, China, India, Russia, France, Italy, Hong Kong, Germany, Singapore, Thailand, Philippines, Taiwan, Australia. I mean, it's like 25, 30 countries. How has this pandemic affected you, man? It's got to be terrible.
Yes and no. I actually planned to travel less this year, and coincidentally, this pandemic happened. So okay, I don't feel that impacted per se on my travels.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was one of the reasons you were traveling so much before?
Right. It was to share about before I joined EVOS, I was in this company called AirAsia, the airlines. Sorry, are we recording already?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Before I was in EVOS, I was in AirAsia for 7 years, the airlines.
Okay.
That's world's best low-cost airlines around the world. And we had 300 Airbus aircraft. So I got involved in the esports space, which I'll share a bit more later. And one of my jobs was to help promote esports, and what we did at AirAsia, which was kind of different, became a unique case study. And that's how I got invited to all these conferences to share it.
So what was the reason AirAsia wanted to get involved in esports, and how come they picked you to be the guy?
Man, it's by coincidence and an accident, actually. Previously, before doing esports, I was handling corporate culture, the HR side, and employee engagement and internal branding. So back in 2017, a pilot told me that, hey, Allan, the co-founder of our airline, Tony Fernandez, knows about Twitch. I'm like, what on earth is Twitch? To me, in my vocabulary, Twitch is like, twitching your eyes, like the rock.
Right. Yeah. What year was this? What year was this?
2017.
Okay.
And 2017, and when I Google about Twitch, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's a big deal. Amazon bought it close to $1 billion US bucks back in 2014. I'm like, how come I don't know about this? Am I living under a rock or something? And I know, right? And And I didn't really bother much. Then he said, "Oh, Alan, Tony, the co-founder of our airline, he knows about esports." I'm like, "What on earth is that? Sounds like some dodgy stuff, you know." I've never heard of that term. I used to be a
Right.
gamer. I used to play Counter Strike, CS:GO, 1.6, Red Alert, StarCraft 1, StarCraft 2, and that was my kind of esports per se.
Hmm.
I don't
But
know
then it
this
was
term
just video
existed.
gaming.
Video gaming, going to the cyber cafe, playing among friends. That's it. You don't have a few $1 million prize pool running around kind of thing. And at this age back then, I was 37, right? And hearing about this, I needed to find out more. I was curious. And when I
Mhm.
found out more, I'm like, oh man, Asia, our company needs to get involved. It's not the Gen Zs, the millennials. But to get buy-in from a big company with 20,000 employees, it's going to be tough, man. And I realized that I need to do some awareness campaign internally. That's when I got the idea from another industry I was in called paintball. Have you heard of paintball? The
Sure.
shooting game.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was involved in paintball for 10 years before joining AirAsia. So back then we had this challenge of educating the market what is paintball. You know, people think it's some violent thing, people get killed or something like that.
Mhm.
So we went on an awareness campaign. I used the same method. I actually did jerseys, esports jersey for our company,
Okay.
100 pieces. One piece is about 10 US dollars. I spent about close to 1,000 US dollars, my own money, that you
Hmm.
cannot claim from the company, you know,
Right.
and gave it to all our C-suite executive, our branding, our marketing folks with their name behind. Just imagine Tommy Knapp behind. Give it to you the correct size. Everyone got
Mhm.
happy. Gave one to a co-founder.
But
And
did they
next
know
day,
what it was? Did they know what it was, Alan?
uh,
Did
not yet. They're just starting
okay.
to know, right? So that's the
Okay.
beauty of it. Like,
Right.
wow, Erlen, nice jersey. Okay, I'll wear it. I feel
Okay.
proud. You know, they're not going to dump it one corner or give to their family,
Right.
neighbor, friend. And after that, the other co-founder called me up the next day, Dato Kamarudin. He's like, Alan, where's my jersey? I'm like, sir, what jersey? The one you gave to Tony, our co-founder. Like, oh shit, you give one boss, you better give the other boss. I went to his house. I was there from like 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. And during the breaks, I shared with him about esports because he was talking to his sons about other projects. And
Mhm.
when I was finding his jersey, the son was saying, like, E-Class was saying, like, Alan, wow, your department has a big budget, huh? I'm like, what big budget? It's Allan Phang Incorporation, my own money, dude. My own money? How much do you
Right.
spend? 1,000 US dollars.
Right.
Are you nuts? Claim back from
Right.
the company. Can't claim. There's no budget for it. So when the co-founder found out, he said, hey, claim it under executive chairman budget, man. I'm like, oh wow, oh, it's like hallelujah moment. I don't have to eat cup noodles rest of the month.
Yeah, that's
Um,
one of those where you don't ask for permission; you just do it, and when
yeah,
it makes a lot of sense, when it fits the culture, then it comes back for you. That's great. Keep going. Yeah, that's awesome.
and then within 6 months, we got our own esports team among employees, like a corporate esports team. Started with 10 employees, and over the months expanded to 200 over, and we started sponsoring a Dota team, quite famous in Southeast Asia, called Mineski. They always end up in the TI, the international, which is a 20-30 million US dollars prize money event. And
Mhm.
we bought our own Mobile Legends team, a mobile team, and we sponsored a regional Alibaba's esport tournament, WESG. It's quite well known around the world. A
Mhm.
5.5 million US dollar tournament prize money, and that's how we went in. And so that's how we built the Asia esports scene. We didn't go direct and pump in loads of money externally. We embrace it internally first. We even have a gaming room inside our headquarters, you know, with
Okay.
Alienware, Secret Lab chairs, and Razer headsets, etc.
So, but the first step for you was kind of the jerseys and marketing it, and
Yes.
then you started putting teams together. How did you guys determine to go after the TI? How did you decide to go after a team? Like, where did you see because right now, right, that's what a lot of big companies are looking for. Where's the marketing spend? Where do I get the most for my dollars? Where do I optimize it? How did you determine that?
That's right. We did a lot of market research on ground, not just looking at Google News and looking at the market research reports, because some of the news over in Southeast Asia is a bit limited. So I actually went to a lot of esports community events, talking to the community, spending a lot of time after 6 p.m. with them, going out for drinks, etc. Talking to a lot of the publishers. I went to like the Riot Games events around Southeast Asia and find out more what's happening in the scene. Some games are more popular than others. Like for example, if I came to the States a few times. In the US, people share with me, oh yeah, Alan, esports is about Fortnite, League of Legends, Overwatch, and that's their lingo, right? Which is true. It works for that countries, the US, etc. But when you come to this part of the world, it's more to mobile games. which is surprising. And the feedback I get from the Americans usually, who are not exposed yet to the scene over here, they say that, oh, Alan, esports is playing on the PC or playing on your PS4, Xbox. That's it. Mobile? What's that? It's not
Right.
esports, but it's different over here, guys. So for those of you tuning in right now to this podcast, you can Google about esports in Southeast Asia and mobile. It's blowing up, exploding.
And when
Everyone
you say
plays
mobile, can you
mobile
talk to
games.
me a
Yeah.
little?
So games like PUBG.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you play on the handphone, a lot of games you can download either on Android or iStore, like PUBG, Player Unknown's Battleground Mobile. It's by Tencent, very big company. It's a big game. It's big over here, and also like Mobile Legends. It's like League of Legends on the phone kind of thing. But it's a mobile game, right?
Right.
And also you have games like Free Fire. Free Fire is really big. They just hit like 80 million users around the world. So these games are popular. Why? Because it's easily accessible. Not everyone over here can afford a PC straight up for 1,000 or 2,000 US dollars, or laptop, a gaming laptop per se. But everyone has a handphone, and a handphone is as cheap as 150 to 200 US dollars. So everyone plays it. Even the security guard at a mall, when he has free time, he's playing it. Like, dude, it's like a lifestyle here. In
Right.
China, it's even big. Almost everyone plays games
And
on a
so how do
phone.
they organize? How do they organize? Because some people's phones are probably better and faster than other people's phones. So how do they organize tournaments that are consistent and there's continuity and everybody's kind of playing on the same playing field? Because on a PC, you can do that when you go to an event and there's, we're playing 5v5 and everybody's set up on the same PC by the same maker. So when you're playing on your phone and I'm playing on my phone and you're playing in the Southeast Asia region and I'm playing on servers in North America, like how does that work?
Yeah, they have different servers. Like for example, Malaysia, Singapore is usually classified as one region, and they'll play online qualifiers first, and then if you're good, you qualify for the offline event, and then when you go to the offline event, they actually all use the same type of handphones, and all connected to the same internet bandwidth. So that's to make it more fair.
Got it.
Good question. Yeah.
Yeah. And are you guys involved right now? And not on the EVO side, still talking about AirAsia. Did you guys get involved? You said TI. Are there any mobile tournaments, or are there any mobile tournaments that you know of right now that you say are really incredible?
So we didn't get involved with TI directly, but the team that we sponsored back then, AirAsia, they went to TI twice, and they even won one of the major tournaments in China. Yeah, and so they're still sponsoring the Alibaba Esports tournament in Southeast Asia.
Okay, and I was going to ask you, so you've been traveling, like you said, all over the world, especially through AirAsia. One of the things that when I met you that I thought you did really, really well was you posted constantly, right? You were taking pictures with people, you were always posting, and I think you were amazing at that. So was that part of your marketing concept when you were going to the events? And then how did you end up becoming a speaker at TEDx? Because that's a big deal.
Yeah, what happened was back then I'm like, okay, you have a problem. Nobody knows me. I can't just talk to people. So I need to build up my profile in the esports space. So I went to talk to great people like yourself. Try to understand the market in different countries. And I guess when I started going to a different esports and even digital and tech conferences, when the organizer tries to pick their list of speakers, they will do their research and found out I was a part of it. And that's how TEDx spotted me. I spoke in a local one here in Malaysia, in a mostly tech-related field.
Okay. Was the topic, so was it technology or was it esports specifically?
Just esports in general. The market even here right now is still in the educational stage.
Mm-hmm.
Not many people know esports per se. They know some sort of gaming thingy, but that's about it. So my job was to help educate them in a macro perspective.
Yeah, I think that's still going on. I think it's going to continue for a while. And for me, it's on the right. It's on the executive level. So you have to educate the executives. Well, I mean, you were just saying in 2017, you were a video gamer, but you hadn't really heard the term esports. And now now esports is becoming more ubiquitous. But I think a lot of people, misspeak when they say esports sometimes. And I know it's still being defined, but the industry of gaming is like 100 and whatever, or more than $150 billion industry. It's bigger than TV. It's bigger than the movies, right?
Yeah.
But esports is just one small part of that. Esports is the really competitive side of that. So that's like just educating people about that. And also that esports isn't actually a sport. It's all of these games and titles under the esports umbrella. So people that are playing League of Legends, they might not be any good at Dota. They, right?
Yeah, that's right. Even Rocket League, Smash Bros, etc.
Yeah. So are you finding, because just over there, you're talking about it, Southeast Asia, are you finding that people are starting to understand it more? Do you still need to have the same education process that you needed to 4 years ago? Or do you think it's becoming more well-known now?
I think it's becoming more well-known. It's accelerated, especially with this pandemic, which happened, this coronavirus. Even it's been appearing a lot on BBC, CNN, more people are starting to accept and talk about it. Even, we all know the World Health Organization classified it under a disorder, right? A gaming disorder. And now WHO is saying, oh, it's okay to play at home, that kind of thing. So times are changing. More executives are starting to notice it. The culture here in Southeast Asia is a bit more conservative. Everyone's like on a wait and see attitude. The executives, right? They're like, oh, who's going to do first? Then the CMO is saying, oh, okay, is he doing? Okay, they're doing. Okay, we go in. So it's still very iffy. People, because most senior execs are more senior. I don't want to offend anyone. Maybe in the range of 40 or 50. The only way they know about esports is gaming is through their sons, daughters, right? Their child. And some of them think it's still kids' child's play under the basement with pizza and stuff like that. So they're like, Alan, what's this esports? Oh, yeah, my kid plays it. But that's how they know, right? Because they're from that era of traditional sports, your NFL, NBA kind of thing, for example. Over here is football, English Premier League. So a lot of education still going on. I believe the next generation of CMOs, when they take over, who are the millennials, definitely you see more and more esports activation. Just sharing, for example, the BMW one that happened recently, the global esports activation they did with 5 esports team around the world. Mm-hmm. That was cool, and I used that as a basis to share. Like, hey guys, look, even a big brand like BMW is getting involved in esports. And interestingly, they didn't use it as a term as sponsorship. They use the term as a new marketing channel, to capture their new audiences. And it's not straight away up to get instant ROI, like, get involved in esports and sell X amount of cars by end of this year kind of thing. They're looking at the long tail, the long term in the next 5 years per se, to build up their share of mind and their influence over the next generation of their potential buyers.
Yeah, no, that's a great example. Do you have any other good examples? Because obviously with AirAsia, that was your job. And then you mentioned BMW. Are there any other non-endemic brands that have gotten into the space that are doing a good job?
Yeah, like for us, over here, over here we partnered with a big e-commerce company. It's called Lazada. It's under Alibaba. It's like an Amazon over here in Southeast Asia. So we partnered with Lazada, and we're going to roll out activities like finding our next esports player, and Lazada is being part of it for like Mobile Legends and Free Fire. And also we're doing community events with them and selling our merchandise on their e-commerce platform. Mm-hmm. So there's sort of like a transaction happening, and also to educate the market and the esports community that, hey, Lazada is on board right now. We also did projects with X. X is the male grooming brand under Unilever. It's a deodorant. So we did stuff with them as well. And the market in Indonesia is kind of matured because the president of Indonesia, President of Jokowi, he did a esports President's Cup tournament. It's interesting why politicians are getting involved, right? Because the next generation of their voters is going to be these gamers, etc. So you need to, be part of the scene in where they're at. Example, even in France back then, they did a live debate on Twitch. I'm like, oh, what is French politicians doing on Twitch? If the next generation is not going to see you on the mainstream media, you need to go to them to where they're at.
No, that's a great point. They should all be on Xbox or PlayStation right now, and on their PCs and on their mobile devices. So what was with your?
I know.
Yeah, with your president. Yeah. What?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, with your president. What tournament did he start, or what game did they play?
In Indonesia, they did Mobile Legends in President's Cup. So it's in a big stadium. Can Google about it, and the whole indoor stadium is just about that event, right? I'm like, wow, this whole event is dedicated to this. There's no
Mhm.
other events inside there. It's just esports, and outside there is like a carnival, like a big event
Sure.
with like a big party.
Yeah, that's one of the things we're missing. We can't do that right now with the pandemic.
Yeah,
So that'll be great when
but I
that all
noticed,
comes back.
sure, I noticed around the world, not many governments are actively supporting esports in that sense. I mean, you have the E3 and conferences, but that's about it. Most governments leaving it to be commercially driven. Over here in Southeast Asia is a bit different because the governments realize the potential of esports and how it can influence the next generation, and they want to be in that space. So most governments also, because in Southeast Asia they look at it like it's like a face thing, like a face thing. They want to be seen like a number one. So everyone's announcing, oh, we're going to do this esports arena, we're going to support this event. So the governments here are very supportive. They put it under their government budgets, the annual budgets.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal. And kind of staying on that, what do you think about the IHF and the IOC as far as them making, the esports and specific titles part of the Olympics?
Oh, this is an interesting story. Oh, touchy subject, which I'm happy to share. I mean, I've been able to talk to a lot of people about it, from the publishers, event organizers, and even the IOC people when they did a presentation at one of the conferences. And I realized whatever we read on the news might not be how it's projected to be. Most of the esports community, when they hear this subject, they get very sensitive. They're like, oh, the IOC needs esports more than esports need the IOC and the Olympics, for example, right? People think that they'll see a Dota or League of Legends event in the Olympics, which I used to think that way as well, reading just from the media. But after that, when I talk to people, I realize it's not that. What's going to happen is potentially you'll see in the upcoming Olympics, the next cycle or the cycle later, you'll see esports in the form of predictions. You see like which is already happening. There's a world tour happening. You see like maybe e-tennis or even e-yachting, or even e-football. That's their form of esports, not the Dota or League of Legends or Smash Bros that we know of, or Street Fighter. Simply because the IOC doesn't own the rights to those IPs. So and the Olympics needs to earn money, right? So there's no way they're going to just give up those IPs to other publishers out there. They'll make their own IP. And right now, there's no esports federation that's recognized directly by the IOC and Olympics. We have independent ones going around, which is cool because it also helps elevate the esports scene in every local government. But the thing with is I believe the IOC won't give control just to one body. They will allow all the federations, like the cycling federation, for example, to have their own esports IP, and they will do probably profit sharing or revenue sharing. This is my own personal take, and I believe this is going to happen that way. What do you think about it yourself, Tommy?
No, well, for me, it's an interesting conversation. I just read most of it. I haven't been behind closed doors, so I always kind of reserve my opinion until I really speak to people that know what's going on. Kind of to your point, I found that interesting what you just said. That's a learning for me. I didn't realize that they were really looking. I know they wanted to stay away from like first-person shooters just because the gun violence and everything is always one of those areas that you can kind of. Although skeet shooting, they shoot guns with that. They're not shooting people. And that's an Olympic event, I believe. But the sports title seems to really make sense to me. Will they be able to put something together? Obviously, they have to work with somebody as far as the publisher goes, as far as talent goes, to the game designers, game developers that are going to make that game. But I do think that now that you're saying that kind of does make sense. It fits along with, okay, let's play sports titles because it is sports. It's just, again, esports is electronic sports, but I think that's where some people have difficulty wrapping their arms around esports. They might understand a Madden or a 2K or the MLB, the show, or one of those, and a FIFA, but they don't get that Dota or League of Legends or Overwatch or Super Smash or one of those is an esport because they don't understand the dynamics of it yet.
Yeah, I think you brought up this topic is very interesting. I've been to some podcasts, but no one talks about this really. So you really did your homework, Tommy.
Well, that's funny. Well, I kind of wanted to switch into EVOS though, because it seemed to
Sure.
me when I met you, and like constantly, like I said, you're one of those people. I always ask people who they go to for their information because I follow a certain amount of people. You know, Darcy's a great one to follow. He posts a ton on LinkedIn, but you are always posting. You're
Yeah.
so good on social, and you're always traveling the world, so you're meeting a lot of people. So why did you make the move from Air Asia? Because it seemed like you were doing a lot of really good things and meeting a ton of people. Did EVOS recruit you in? Was it just time to move on from Air Asia, or did Air Asia say no more esports? Like what happened?
So what happened was EVOS tried to recruit me, excuse me, a year ago, right? They tried to recruit me, but I couldn't join because I had commitments to fulfill and complete projects in AirAsia for the esports division. So end of last year, when I completed most of the major projects, and I realized that it can run auto run by itself. At the same time, I wanted to get a deeper involvement in the esports world. They say you're not in esports until you're totally in there. So
Right.
I wanted to immerse myself all in, right? And I realized that, I, you know, this is the thing, the dilemma, or it happens to people, even from the non-endemic space. When they get a taste of esports, you're like, oh man, I just want to get in, because when you go to an esports event, you feel the excitement, the passion, the energy, and just being around the community. So it like kind of draws you like a magnet.
I
I got
agree.
drawn in, man. I
Yeah,
I, I managed to avoid it for 2 years, and finally after 2 years, like okay, time to get in. And it's the future, right?
yeah.
You're talking about the business of millennials and Gen Z, and it's so exciting. I feel young again, even though I'm 39 years old this year, but I'm constantly talking to 20-year-olds and even younger, and wow, so exciting. So when Ivas asked me again, I'm like, okay, let's go for it. And coincidentally, it happened just before the pandemic and the coronavirus thing happened. I decided end of last year. So when I made an announcement this year on April the 1st, April Fool's Day, like, hey guys, I'm leaving Asia. People's like, Alan, are you serious? It's April Fool, right? I got tons of messages, right?
Right.
And a few weeks later, I announced I joined EVOS.
Right. That's funny. What you just said is something that I told my wife not that long ago. We have visited college campuses, right? And when you go to a college campus, I always say I love college campuses because, first of all, there's a lot of young people there. A lot of people are smart. They're wide open to different ideas and thoughts, and they share. And they're young and they're vibrant, and they think they could change the world. And what you just said, like I hadn't even thought about it that way before, but you're right. One of the reasons I think that when I talk about esports and I get so excited and there's so much energy is because there really are a lot of young people involved too, right? That Gen Z, the millennials, there's so much youth that's coming up and there's so much enthusiasm and excitement. It's hard not for that to kind of take over guys like you and I.
Yeah, exactly. And especially when you talk to brands or people who have no clue about esports, you're so excited and have a lot of passion to share it because that means there's a gap in the market. It's a good problem. It means you know something that others don't, and you're happy to share it.
Right. So tell me what your role is at EVOS and tell me a little bit about the club. Like where are you guys located? What titles do you guys play in? Because I know you're a powerhouse over there in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, we started back in 2017, and back then we started with a few teams. Right now we have about 12 teams across all the game titles here that are popular. We have 300 over gaming talents as well. We won the Mobile Legends World Championship last year, champions, as well as the Free Fire World Championship. My role is to handle the regional marketing and PR. Even before I came in, there's already people handling marketing stuff locally. We have local country managers, social media teams, etc. But my job is to align everything under regional direction too, as well as on the PR side. I'm their first PR hire. Previously, they didn't really have a PR hire. They just um, rely on inbound journalists requesting for media interviews, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be actively talking to a lot of mainstream media as well to promote esports and EVOS Esports. And this is an interesting item. Out of 4 co-founders, 3 of them were nominated and got listed as Forbes 30 under 30 in Asia.
Wow.
It's a big deal. I haven't really seen any company with 3 co-founders in a Forbes 30 under 30 list.
That's
So it's
amazing.
kind of interesting. And they are, guess what? They are 30 years old. I'm 39.
Right,
So my
right.
CEO is like 30 years old, right? It's interesting life. But I also feel that that's interesting concept that someone shared with me last year. This Alan, to do a young people's business, you need to be with young people. I like, makes sense,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, not like I know everything about esports inside out. I also rely on information and learn from others, like about
Mhm.
meta and stuff like that. So it's constant learning process. And esports, you just need to be on the ball, get the latest
Yeah.
information. So I'm always waiting for new stuff. Even like Valorant's going to come out, right? This coming first week of June. That's so excited. Even when
Right.
Apex Legends came out, I was like playing with my friends. Hey, let's go play Apex. It's like,
Right.
and then yeah, it's very
So,
interesting
so,
this
so you
esports
said you're
space.
you're you're leading the regional efforts. What's the
Yeah.
region?
So we are active in 5 countries in Southeast Asia. In Southeast Asia, there's 10. We're active in Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, and Vietnam. Have you been to any of these countries, Tommy?
No, I've been to Bali, so that's in
Ah,
Indonesia.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been to
yeah, yeah.
Bali, and
It's
I've been to
nice.
China, but China, of course, isn't one of those five. But yeah, I've done quite a bit of traveling extensively. Bali is one of my favorite places. It's beautiful.
Yeah, esports in this part of the world is still very nascent, very new, in the sense that there are not many crazy fundraising rounds like you get in the US, like Team Liquid, Cloud9, FaZe Clan, etc. Over here, it's still very new. Right now, EVOS, we raised a 4.4 million US dollars, a
Mhm.
Series A, back in November last year, and we're just about to announce Series B coming up in the next couple of months. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys are expanding, and that means then are you going to be, where's that money go? Are you adding more players? Are you adding more content? Because you said 12 teams, so that's on the esports side. But a lot of the teams, you mentioned FaZe Clan and 100 Thieves. There's an esports
Mm.
side, but there's also that content side. Are you guys focused on the content side as well?
That's right. Focus on content side. We have actually two arms. The EVOS Esports arm is to take care of the esports side, and we have another company called WIM, WHIM. WIM handles all the talent management of the gaming influencers. So
Okay.
we'll be adding more value to both sides, more on the content side. You're right. We have over 100 employees right now, mostly
Okay.
based in Indonesia. Yeah, it's kind of big
Wow. Yeah.
compared to the other esports teams. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
big esports team. Yeah, and so for you, and I think about this for anybody, and I know you're working on just a region of 5 countries, and it's not a global initiative really, but you still have 12 different teams and the content creators that you need to to have. You're handling all the PR, all the marketing. That's. I mean, are you wearing a bunch of different hats? Do you walk into one meeting? Do you walk into one meeting? And I know right now, not physically, but do you get on one Zoom call and you're wearing the hat for this team, and then you take this hat off and you're wearing the next one? And are they? And they all run under the same brand, right? But I mean,
Right.
do you have different campaigns and different initiatives for different teams?
That's right. Good question, Tommy. Over here in Southeast Asia, it's a bit different from the US. In US, you just do one campaign in English and that's it. Over here, you have 5 countries which speak 5 different languages. For Indonesia, you need to speak Bahasa Indonesia. In Malaysia, Singapore, they speak English. It's fine. In Vietnam, you got to speak Vietnamese, and in Thai, you got to speak. In Thailand, you got to speak Thai language. So most of the campaigns are very localized. That's the secret sauce. You can't just do English copy and paste and just roll it out across all 5 regions. No one will understand. And even that happened when I was in AirAsia. So it has to be a localized play. Uh, Go global, think local. So
Right.
my job is to streamline and make sure some of our regional efforts uh, align. And like even with our recent COVID-19 pandemic, we did a campaign whereby we gave back to the community via CSR initiative, giving back and doing some charity drive donations, and it went well across the region. And
That's
some
awesome.
campaigns need to be localized because some sponsors are only in certain countries. Not every sponsor is a regional play, for example, because their budgets are different.
Yeah, for sure. And what do you guys have coming up? Like in the next week, in the next month, in the next 3 months, are all your teams playing right now?
Yeah, they're active, but mostly it's still all online. We participate in some local events, and there's some regional events happening on a regional level by the like ESL, One Esports.
Which team's
Yeah,
doing the best right now?
Mobile Legends doing well. We got second recently in the Indonesia finals a few weeks ago. We got other events coming up, some community events as well. So it keeps changing. So some people feel that, oh, in esports you always got to be number one, but that's not true. It's more about the influence that you have with the community, because you can't always be number one. That's for sure, right?
Right.
So being more influential is also valuable in that sense.
So tell me, so one of the things that you've done to pivot, because we're doing everything virtually and online right now, you've got a fan base, you've got people that wear your jerseys, wear your hats, they love your brand, they love the players, they love your content creators. Before you could do events, live events, and have people come to those events, you're playing live, and so you can see, touch, feels, all of that. Right now, everything's virtual. So how have you pivoted, like on your side, and how's the org pivoted so that you're still staying in touch with and connected to your fan base and the people that follow you guys?
Yeah, we just did. So over here, there's this thing called Hari Raya Festival. It's like the Muslims celebrate their New Year's event. So it's like a fast over here. So for 1 month, the Muslims don't eat lunch and dinner. They don't eat breakfast and lunch. They eat dinner at about 7 p.m. So we had this break fasting, we call it, together with our players, and they go online with the community. They go on Discord and do meet and greet, answer questions online.
Okay.
So it's a form of engagement in a sense. Yeah. Aside to just the normal streaming, sometimes I want to share more about this part. So in the esports world, if you just do live streaming, etc., just on the gaming side, it's going to get boring. You're going to get exhaustion from it. Just like imagine yourself watching Netflix every day. You get exhaustion from it.
Yeah.
That will happen in the esports gaming world. So we also have different verticals. Like we are branching out into short films. We have our esports stars in the films, as well as in comedy skits and contents. Yeah, and long form vertical contents. Cause when you watch your mobile device, right, it's not horizontal, it's vertical. So we have vertical format content as well, in terms of like short movies on Instagram stories, Instagram TV. So yeah, we're branching out into the film and music space. We
No, that's
also
awesome.
did a sign up with TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you leading all that, or do you have like is that one of the things when you sit down in a meeting and you're all around a table, or if you're on a Zoom call, do you say, okay, somebody's working on comedy, somebody's got to do a storyline about drama, somebody's got to do like relationship driven stuff? I mean, are you sitting down kind of piecing that out? Who's coming up with all that? Because that's a lot of content.
I know, right? So we have teams. We work with actual movie producers, film producers, etc. We do strategic partnerships with them. We're going to announce some amazing stuff coming in the pipeline, which I'll share with you once it's out. So there are different teams handling different areas. My job is to come in on and off to see how I can add value, in a sense. I don't want to tell them how to do their work. They're already good in that, right?
Right.
But if I see anything that's happening in the US or Europe that I feel can add value, or something that no one else has done, then I will be more than glad and happy to share. So yeah, we have good people on board who does great stuff, and my job is to amplify it, to let other people know about it.
Yeah, for sure. And when do you plan on coming back to the States?
Oh man, I miss the States, especially Miami, right?
Right.
Hopefully, when all this settles down, the esports bar is they had been doing it every year, so hopefully they get to do it this year as well. I miss Cannes this year in France, but yeah, hoping to come back to the US soon. I was in the US actually for 3 times so far, in New York, LA, University of California, Irvine. That was interesting.
Okay.
We got an esports arena there,
Yeah.
and even in Hollywood. Yeah, it's very vibrant over there in the US for esports.
Yeah, well, again, it's kind of like what you said. I find from region to region, right? I think California is pretty far ahead of a lot of other places in the country, because that's where so many of the developers and the game publishers are, right? And of course you've got Silicon Valley, so all of that kind of leads that gaming space. But I think what I found here is kind of to your point. There are some state governments and local governments that are supporting the cause. So like
Oh.
Texas and Georgia. So in Houston and Dallas, it's a pretty strong dynamic. In Atlanta, it's pretty strong. I think, Seattle and New York have pretty good programs. Down here in South Florida, it's starting to happen. I work with the city. I work with the mayor. I work with the city manager. They want to be involved in esports. But again, a lot of people want to be involved, but they just have no idea really what it is. So they don't know what to do. So guys like us have to try to educate them. And then we also have to look, right? We have to look at the stack and we have to say, okay, where does it make sense for a city to get involved? Or where does it make sense for a region to get involved? Because I know, I read a lot about China, and I know, Tencent and Alibaba have done a ton over there too. But they talk about putting entire cities that are really based right around esports. So then you can have all of these. You can have your medical facilities. You could have, your legal facilities. You could have coaching and training. You could have just like anything you can think of can take place. And then it's a really dynamic situation, right? Because everybody is sharing information and sharing best practices. And right now I feel like in this country, depending on where you are, it's really fragmented. And I'll give you a for instance, and with South Florida, when I left the Miami Marlins, my job was to do exactly what you did. It was about the same time, 2017. I'm like, this is phenomenal. I got to get in, but I need to surround myself with people that know what's going on. And when you do that, you learn very quickly. Well, down here in South Florida, Misfits Gaming's down here, the Heat Checker down here, Alienware's down here, Origin PC's down here. There's a publisher called Ghost Punch that's down here, Team Witness. So there's a bunch of them that were involved. None of them knew each other. That shows you how fragmented it was. None of them really, the Heat Check and Misfits Gaming knew each other, but really none of those other organizations were together. So that's where I believe that it makes sense to kind of bring everybody together, create a coalition, and then you can share, and then that will help your region grow. So that's one of the things I'm trying to do in South Florida. And then just being a thought leader, talking to people like yourself and sharing your story with other people so they can hear exactly what you're talking about. Right now, it's still nascent. I tell people so in a baseball game, in baseball terms, right? It's if you say a 9-inning game in baseball, we're definitely in the game. We're past the first inning, but we're probably only in the second inning. It's still new, but there's so much opportunity right now. I think it's the greatest time to get involved.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. It's also so fragmented in the US, right?
That's the way I see it. I always try to say, listen, I'm just one person with one perspective, So, yeah, but I do find that, and I think, tell me about this. I'd like to know a little bit about this because you guys are at the pro level, you're at the top. What is it like at a university level over there? And then as you draw further down into the youth level, is there any type of foundational organization at the youth level where kids at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old can play Dota in a competitive environment against each other, and they know, okay, I'm the best Dota player at 9 years old in Kuala Lumpur? Does that exist?
Oh, wow, that's a good question, man. We have some programs running out, but it's not at a big full-on scale country level yet. We have pockets of people doing that a bit on the west side, on the north side, etc. So it's still getting there because you still need to go through the public perception, especially of the high schools and the teachers and the parents. Like, oh no, my son or my daughter is going to be gaming for life, to get a perception. So it needs to be changed slowly. When our minister in Malaysia, our Ministry of Youth and Sports, they're very active in esports. They even come out with a 5-year plan, a blueprint. But when you talk about education ministry, oh man, that's like a thorn on the birdie. It's like something poking you because it's a very sensitive subject. Some parents are like in uproar. Oh no, what's happening to our country? So there's a lot of public perception needs to change. It's going to take some time. In a way, it's good because it means there's room to grow. On the college level, it's more structured. Riot Games, they have their local Riot Ambassador program in every public and private college. And also Garena is really big here, the publisher for League of Legends over here. And even other publishers followed suit, like Mobile Legends have their own ambassador program, reaching out to all the students, etc. So yeah, that's what's happening in the scene. You have some brands who are doing college programs as well. And you have some individuals who have came up together and do like a esports management course, yeah, and potentially one day you might even see a diploma or degree happening. In the US, I see a lot of things happening, man. A lot of movement in this space. I believe even the NCAA was trying to get involved at one point, right?
Yeah, that's another one of those. You always talk about you were talking about sensitivities, and I think there's a lot of people over here in esports and gaming that would probably prefer the NCAA not get involved. But the NCAA is going through a lot right now. I mean, there's just, even with traditional sports, trying to determine who owns the rights to their own image, and because a lot of these traditional sports athletes make the universities and colleges a lot of money. So it's been a question for a while. And I think that esports has probably, again, accelerated that conversation, because now that universities and colleges are offering scholarships for esports, the NCAA didn't get involved right away. There's NACE and TESPA and the Collegiate Star League and all these others. And so now you're offering scholarship to a kid, and this kid, when he's 12, 13, 14, 15, is going to tournaments on the weekends and winning $500 or winning $100. And so in the NCAA, he wouldn't be able to, he would lose his scholarship, or she would lose their scholarship, right? Because you're not allowed to make money. You're not an amateur. It's against NCAA regulations. So, if the NCAA decided to come in and start governing esports and they took all that away, you'd be losing a lot. I don't even know how you police something like that, because, right? Because I don't want to say every kid that goes to university to play for, their Smite or Paladins or League of Legends or Overwatch team has made money in the past. But if you're going to college and you're playing for your college team, and then you go on the weekend and you have a chance to win $1,000, I mean, why wouldn't you want to win that money? But it's, to your point, it's still, all of this is why it's so exciting. I think that's another reason why it's so exciting, right? Because every decision you make at EVOS, everything you did at AirAsia, it feels like it's really making a difference in the space. And that's why I think I see a lot of people jumping from traditional sports into esports, because traditional sports is been around for 100 years more in the States for a lot of these big sports. And so when you get involved, unless you get to a very high level, it's really difficult to make any type of huge impact, make a big change or a big difference. Esports needs everything right now, right? It needs all of it. So it's exciting to get involved in this industry, and that's why I think I see a lot of people coming over, and the industry needs it because it's exploding, it's growing so big. And what you were just talking about over there is interesting to me, because I think a lot of times I just kind of wrap the Far East into one big group, and I shouldn't. Like you're saying, Indonesia is completely different than Malaysia, is completely different than Thailand, than Singapore. They're all different countries, and so some of them have a lot of support from the governments and are see in the big picture that this is something they've got to move forward with, and there's funding there, and there's education, and everybody's behind it. And then other ones are like, oh, wait, pump the brakes. We want to see what happens, and right. And so, but I think in another 5 or 10 years, again, I already see a big difference from 2017, right? There's a big difference today that I see. Like we were just talking about finding information over there. There's a ton of information over here in North America now to find on esports. But when I first got in 3-4 years ago, if I Googled esports news, I might get an article here or there, like not much. Today in the morning, you wake up, you Google esports news, and there's information from everywhere. You've got to filter through. I mean, there's so much, And I think the other thing is too, we're global, right? We're global. Esports is global. I've always been a global person. But when you're just your own country, when you're just like in the U.S. and you pay attention to what's going on in the U.S., that's a certain amount of information. Well, all of a sudden with esports, it opens up the entire globe. So you don't just have to know what's going on here in the U.S. You need to know what's going on in Indonesia. You need to know what's going on in France. You need to know what's going on in Brazil. Because all of it affects us. It's not 100 years ago. 100 years ago, you could walk out your door, right? It was the only community you had was that community that was. You and I are a perfect example. Who knows? We're 10,000 miles apart right now, right?
I know, right?
Yeah, you're on the other side of the world from me. It's 2:00 in the morning, or almost 3:00 in the morning for you right now. And what time is it for me? It's 3:00 in the afternoon. You're 12 hours away, dude. It's as far away as we can get, and we're talking like you were right here sitting next to me. It's crazy.
I know, right? And it's a good thing you brought up. Like I got governments from other countries in Europe emailing me, wanting to find out more about esports and how we do stuff over here. The governments want to potentially add in budgets into their esports programs, as part of their economic stimulus and stuff like that, because they see the potential, right? Esports, gaming, development, etc. So wow, I'm like, wow, even governments are emailing actively, right? I got governments in like China wanting to find out more about how we do esports education in this part of the world, and also connect them with thought leaders in that space. So a lot of information is traveling across even as we speak. So it's really exciting. Just to give you a flavor of like our some of our talents in Indonesia. There's some talent our guys called Dylan Pros. That's Dylan space PROS, Dylan Pros, and his YouTube has 687 million views to date,
Wow.
9 million over subscribers on his YouTube, and average of 32 million video views in the last 30 days. That's an average of 1 million a day, right? Not many people in the States might know this because so different market over here or might not be exposed to it. Another one is Jonathan Liandi. He has like 362 million views to date on his YouTube, 1.4 million subscribers, and 31 million video views in the last 30 days. Even our EVOS YouTube channel, if you go check it out, we have over 80 million views. Yes, and it's really big over here. So different countries in Southeast Asia have different ways of consuming content. If, for example, I go to Malaysia, it's a Facebook country. Why is that? Twitch is not a vocabulary over here. Surprisingly, right? We always hear in the reports Twitch, etc. Simply because I saw tournaments being done online, and they did on Twitch. They wanted to try, right? And a fan who goes on Twitch, their data gets consumed straight away. Poof, like, hey, my data is gone because so fast, right?
Right.
The infrastructure is not really built up here. For Twitch, for Facebook gaming is different because all the telcos here, all the telecommunications company, they actually band up together with Facebook and give like a white label zero rated data. Means if you have a Facebook app, you don't have to spend any data on it. The telcos have already subsidized,
Right.
hence that's how Facebook gaming is really picking up here, especially the new app. So everyone just watches their content of Facebook gaming in Malaysia. In Indonesia, they consume on YouTube. So it's a very different
Yeah.
ways how the market is interacting with their content.
Man, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. I appreciate you sharing that. That's great. Well, I know we're going into the weekend, and I know, like I said, we're running up on 3 o'clock in the morning. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that maybe you wanted to hit that you want to
Yeah,
talk
I
about?
think yeah, people talk about cloud gaming, etc. I think personally, I feel it's still a buzzword. There's a lot of stuff needs to be done on the back end with infrastructure and such. But I think like for 5G, 5G is going to change the scene completely over here. I think it's going to bring esports to another level, especially on the mobile side. Yeah, so I can't wait for that to happen. What do you think about 5G? Is it big in the
Yeah,
US?
no, well, I keep hearing about it everywhere too. So, but again, I don't know that much about it. But to me, 5G, the reason, I mean, obviously it's faster, but is it 5G? Is it all wireless or is it hardwired?
I believe it's wireless, just
I
like you got
believe
3G, 4G.
I believe it's wireless. Yeah.
Yeah, but of course, whether the infrastructure can support it, because you need to pump a lot of dollars into the infrastructure. So hopefully it gets done properly. In Southeast Asia, we have the telco companies doing road shows about it.
Mhm.
Looks exciting, and yeah, imagine playing with zero latency.
Yeah, like you said, yeah, that's totally a game changer. When everybody can be in zero latency at any time, anywhere, yeah, that's definitely a game changer. And I can see where that's the next massive area of infrastructure that is going to just take this to the next level. It's just
Yeah, I
crazy.
just want to. Yep, sorry. I just want to share like how some brands approach us. Like Alan, we just saw the Travis concert in Fortnite. Yeah, it was a big deal, right?
Yeah.
It blew up the whole internet. So like, we want to do the same. We want a brand inside Fortnite. I'm like, whoa, whoa, guys, hold your horses. Fortnite doesn't need your money. They
Right.
earn a revenue of few billion a year. 3.8 billion US, if not mistaken, back in 2018.
Yeah.
And then recently 1.8 billion. Like, so these brand people, they're not aware of that, right? They only see someone else doing, and they just want to follow, but they don't really understand. Imagine you just randomly email Epic Games and expect like, oh, we want our brand in, just barge away in there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think that space to me is fascinating because again, one of the things you talk about and what I think a lot of people don't understand when you look at like if you use Fortnite as a game or a title, yes, people are going on and they're playing it, they're playing the game, but Fortnite is it's a social channel as well. Again, I don't play that often,
Oh
but my
yeah.
kids are on constantly. And so one of the reasons they're on is not just because they like the game, it's because they like the game and they can play it with 4, 5, 6 of their friends all at the same time. Like just think about it. I mean, for you and I, like again, when I was growing up, and it was Atari. It was it was just you and the computer. You had nobody else that really you could play with. But right now, if you and I wanted to, as soon as we're done with the podcast, we could both jump on our PC or our Xbox, and we could be playing, across the world. We could be talking on our headphones and playing a game together. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
Tommy, I
that's
think
amazing.
I think you brought an interesting subject. When I was talking to some of the parents in the US, and they said that, Alan, yeah, at first I thought my kid is just playing with a computer, or with a PC, and then when they go closer, they realize that the kid is actually social. They're talking to their friends. So, if I may say, it's the new form of social media for these Gen Zs and the younger ones. It's not just about playing games. And I heard parents sharing with me in the US that, oh, my kid doesn't play Fortnite, but every time during the break in high school, he would go to the toilet and see the latest Fortnite dance on YouTube and just come out and start doing the dance. Then like, oh wow, it's so cool, the latest dance. You're like, man, it's becoming pop culture and maybe even going mainstream.
100%, 100%. That's the difference, and I think people are starting to understand that. And I think the lines are getting so much more blurred between content creation in gaming and esports, and then bringing in entertainment from the music industry, from the movies, traditional pro sports. It's all converging. I mean, look at all the traditional pro athletes that have gone into streaming over the last like 3 months because they're just like,
Oh,
yeah, I need to talk to my fans. I need to be involved. I need to do something. And once that happens, once you do something like that, when they go back and we start playing in big stadiums again and we have huge crowds, I don't think those people are going to just end that. I don't think they're just going to stop streaming. I don't think they're just going to stop gaming with their friends. I don't see that happening. It may be a different level. They may, pull back a little bit because they'll have other responsibilities, but I don't think it's going away. I just think it's this just what happened was I think it just kicked it up 3 to 5 years faster than it would have happened on its own.
Tommy, I think you brought up interesting subject because I was just thinking about the same thing. What I keep telling people is that like in the US, your or even Europe, the David Beckhams of the world, previously in a traditional space, they only talk to the media, and it's a one-way interaction with the fans, right? The fans just listen to the interview and that's it. Right now in the esports world, you can interact directly, on the fly. And if Tommy says something, comment, and I can straight away reply, "Hi Tommy, how are you?" Like, wow, he replied me, that kind of thing. Imagine all
Yeah.
the big basketball names.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. You're right. It used to be, and I don't think it was on purpose, but I just think most of those, whether it was a movie star, whether it was a professional athlete, whether it was music in industry, they were untouchable. You just because it's just we didn't have the resources to be able to really reach out to somebody unless you ran into them in the street or a restaurant, right? And then a lot of times it drove them crazy because they're just trying to have dinner and you're going over, hey. But now you can do that online. You can chat, you can send a message, you can, and now that Zoom has become so ubiquitous and all these other ways that we can communicate to each other around the world in real time. Yeah,
I
it's
know,
amazing,
it's
man.
crazy.
It's a pretty cool time that we're living in.
Yeah, I see like NASCAR is doing stuff there in the US as well as even F1. There's a lot of cross collaboration. You got tennis superstars playing in F1 now. You got football stars, from like Arsenal example. They're playing F1 because it's highly accessible. You just need your simulator or your PS4 and you're ready to go. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of these things happening which previously was not happening.
exactly right, man. Well, Ellen, thank you, bro. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Tommy.
Yeah, I'm going to be following EVOS closely and keep posting on LinkedIn and through your social channels, man, because I always follow you.
Thanks. I also keep liking your posts.
All right, man. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, and thanks for having me in Level Up.
All right. Have a
this
great week.
podcast.
All right.
You too. Take care. Bye.
I'd like to thank Allan for sharing his time, experience, and knowledge with us today. He's one of those guys that just has an infectious personality, always smiling, always inquisitive, always wanting to help. He provided deep insight into gaming and esports in the Far East and the differences from country to country, and his take on the future of esports in the Olympics was spot on. You can listen again, but you can also find timestamp segments of the show, links to Allan's social pages, and more information about his company, projects, and media in the show notes. If you enjoyed our discussion, please let us know. Continue the conversation with me across all social platforms and become a part of the Ultimate Gamer community today by subscribing at ultimategamer.com. We release a new show every day of the week, Monday through Friday, so be the first to join us for some outstanding upcoming guests and or dive back into the library of previous Level Up pods to hear from some of the most brilliant minds in the space. Experts like Science of Esports guru and Chief Performance Engineer of StateSpace, Taylor Johnson. Executive Director at the International Game Developers Association, Renee Giddens, and First Serve Partners President and Esports Investor, Joey Brander, just to name a few. You can find all of these episodes and more on the Ultimate Gamer website, on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your pods. And finally, please like, rate, and review the show. It helps us reach the gaming community to spread the word and share the wisdom of our guests, as well as some of the most thought-provoking stories in the industry. Shout out, as always, to the Ultimate Gamer. I look forward to being with you on the next Level Up podcast.